Divine Love of Rumi. Welcome. If you're not already familiar with Rumi, I feel now is the time that I really do need to introduce you to him. Maybe he's the most wonderful of Islamic poets. As such, his influence in the West is immense, which is why I say you may already be familiar with him. Indeed, he's said to be the best-selling poet in the US. He was also the founder of the whirling Dervishes, and as such is a very important Sufi philosopher. In common with Ibn Arabi, who I've spoken about in a previous vlog, he believes that we cannot know God through logic, and so he emphasises divine love, and that really is the theme of his poetry. And to quote him, "The lover's cause is separate from all causes. Love is the storable of God's mysteries." Rumi. Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, also known as Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Balaki, Mevlani or Moalani, our master, Melalevi or Mawalau, my master, is more popularly known as simply Rumi. Lived from 1207 to 1273. And he was a Persian poet, and a Hanifi fakir, Islamic scholar, Maturidi theologian, Sufi mystic, originally from Greater Khorasan in Iran, and he was a descendant of Abu Bakr, possibly met with Ibn Arabi, and was certainly greatly influenced by this character Shams al-Tabrizi. As I say, Rumi was born in 1207 it was actually in Balkh in present-day Afghanistan, although then it was in Greater Iran. Increasing Mongol incursions into that area when he was young meant that at the age of 11 he was forced out of Afghanistan and travelled to Baghdad, Mecca, Damascus, and finally to Konya in Turkey, where Rumi then lived for most of his life. But we've got to say that his influence transcends national boundaries and ethnic divisions. Iranians, Tajiks, Turks, Greeks, Pashtuns, other Central Asian Muslims, and Muslims of the Indian subcontinent very much appreciate his legacy, as I've said we do in the West now. His works, however, are mostly written in Persian, but occasionally he used Turkish, Arabic and Greek in his verse. His Masnavari or Mathnawai, composed in Konya, is considered one of the greatest poems of the Persian language. His works are very widely read today, as I said, in their original language across Iran and the Persian-speaking world. And like other mystic and Sufi poets of Persian literature, Rumi's poetry speaks of love, which infuses the world. Your task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Rumi's teachings express the tenets summarised in Quranic verse, which Shams al-Tabrizi cited as the essence of the prophetic guide. Know that there be no God but he, and ask forgiveness for your sin. In the interpretation attributed to Shams, the first part of the verse commands humanity to seek knowledge of Tawhid, the oneness of God, while the second instructs them to negate their own existence, to lose their ego. In Rumi's terms, Tawhid is lived most fully through love, with the connection being made explicit in verse that describes love as the flame which, when it blazes up, burns away everything except the everlasting beloved. Like Ibn al-Arabi, his poetry is firmly rooted in the Quran and the Hadiths. Indeed, he was a believer in the revelations of the Al-Quran, but criticised the mere outwardly legal and ritual practice that was being promoted at the time. In fact, much of his work is dedicated to waking people up and encouraging them to experience life themselves, rather than blindly following the scholars of the day. So this is an Al-Quran, if you like, as an operating system rather than a user manual. The Malevi Sheikh Sefik Khan wrote, Rumi tells us to take the love of God to the forefront, to abstain from being attached to the letters of the law rather than the spirit of it, to find the essence of faith and to raise our faith from the level of imitation to the level of realisation. Rumi believed passionately in the use of music, poetry and dance as a path for reaching God. But he sees poetry as only a reflection of God's love. Rumi believed that music helped devotees to focus their whole being on the divine, and to do this so intensely that the soul was both destroyed and resurrected. It was from these ideas that the practice of the whirling dervish developed into its ritualised form. His teachings became the base of the order of Mevlevi, which are the whirling dervishes, and his son Sultan Wahid organised them. Rumi encouraged Sama, listening to music and turning or doing the sacred dance. In Mevlevi tradition, Sama represents the mystical journey of a spiritual ascent through the mind and love to the perfect one. In this journey, the seeker symbolises, turns towards the truth, grows through love, abandons the ego, finds the truth and arrives at the purpose. The seeker then returns from this spiritual journey with greater maturity to love and to be of service to the whole of creation without discrimination with regard to beliefs, races, classes and nations. The transcendental philosophers are often studied together in the traditional schools of Irfan, philosophy and theosophy throughout the Muslim world, and Rumi embeds this transcendental philosophy like a string of beads with his poems as stories. His main point and emphasis is the unity of being. The depth of his spiritual vision extends beyond the narrow and sectarian concerns. One Rubaiyat reads, on the seeker's path, wise men and fools are one. In his love, brothers and strangers are one. Go on, drink the wine of the beloved. In that faith, Muslims and pagans are one. The whirling dervishes. For Rumi, enlightenment comes little by little. Scholasticism is replaced by esoteric training. So like in Kagjawan, the lower veils focus on actions that are closer to the materialist world. Therefore, the Mevlevi, the whirling dervishes, practice a form of esotericism through hypnotic dance movements. The Mevlevi order, or Mawalawi, is a Sufi order that originated in Konya, a city now in Turkey, formerly the capital of the Anatolian Seljuk Sultanate, and which was founded by followers of Rumi. The Mevlevis are also known as the whirling dervishes due to their practices of whirling as a form of dhikr, remembrance of God. Dervish is a common term for an initiate of the Sufi path. Whirling is part of the formal ceremony, and participants are properly known as semazines. The Mevlevis insist that love is at the centre of Islam. So behold your selfhood, O warrior, become selfless and annihilated like a dervish. And that was Rumi himself. In addition to the obligatory Islamic worship, some of the main spiritual practices within the Mevlevi order are as follows: Dikir, the invocation of the divine names of God, which is believed to purify the heart; Sema or Sama, the whirling ceremony; a study of the Al-Quran and Rumi's works, especially his poetic masterpiece, the Mathnavi; spiritual conversation led by the Sheikh or Shobet; meditation known as Murkabah in Islam; Abad, developing courtesy and mindfulness. The Sema, with its sort of significance to the Mevlevi order, is the annual celebration of the Mevlevians' marriage to God, or death to God even, also called Seb Ilaras, meaning nuptial night or night of union. So this is the idea that I've spoken about so many times, that the closeness to God that we should be seeking. It is observed for 1 week, with the final night occurring on the anniversary of his death. Pilgrims from all over the world travel to Konya for this official celebration. In many respects, it's a form of meditation, intended to bring us closer to God. Rumi's philosophy. Well, in common with Ibn Arabi, Rumi has a non-dualist view of the world. My place is placeless, my trace is traceless, no body, no soul. I am from the soul of souls. I've chased out duality, lived in the world, in two worlds as one. One I seek, one I know, one I see and one I call. He is the first, he is the last, he is the outer, he is the inner. Beyond he, and he is I. No other. So what he's saying is that the macrocosm and the microcosm are within us. Do not feel lonely. The entire universe is inside you. At his time in Anatolia, Christians, Jews and Muslims lived side by side, and he would have been familiar with these other religions. But he also looked at other world religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, etc. And he believed that looking for God was found through introspection rather than the religious dogma. So he's sort of at the same time both rejecting and embracing all religions. An incredibly important part of his philosophy, and something that influences me greatly. He says the 72 religious sects in the world do not really exist. I swear by every religious sect, it is I. Earth, air, water and fire. Do you know what they are? Earth, air, water and fire, and the soul as well. It's I. And of course, Rumi warns against reliance on discourse and words, and focuses to control through experience. Raise your words, not your voice. It's the rain that grows flowers, not the thunder. And this is because arguments are a reflection of the ego and not unconditional love. So Rumi's advocating a radical state of surrender to love And of course, love is actually God. And this dissolves the ego. So again, something that has had a profound effect on me. Reason is powerless in the expression of love. Therefore, words are seen as and unimportant, as a secondary factor, something which affects the weak, the feeble-minded. Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth. Indeed, my own experience of being a victim of black magic brought me to the very same conclusions as Rumi. And maybe that's why they've been sent to me. Ignore those that make you fearful and sad, that degrade you back towards disease and death. And following on from this, I recognise that we need to submit to God's will and not to try and control the universe. And he says, we make plans, unaware of what is being planned. And what we plan cannot withstand what God plans. So for Rumi, silence is a prelude to speaking the truth. So he says silence is the language of God. All else is a poor translation. Indeed, it's love which brings us to the truth, not discourse, which only pits us against each other. But the group activity can enlighten us, such as poetry, music and dance. But this is very different from the Sufi aesthetic tradition, the isolation of the hermit, because of this emphasises communal activity. Nevertheless, both aim to eradicate the ego by focusing on God. And as he said, dance until you shatter yourself. Like my wife, he warns us against complicating things and that we will find truth by looking for simplicity. So reality circles the truth, but never really finds it. We don't learn from defending our position in an argument, but from being open to others. Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. Cleverness is a mere opinion. Bewilderment brings intuitive knowledge. So as with my own journey, he emphasises that we need to focus on ourselves and removing the evil within, rather than seeing an evil world in which we are mere spectators or victims. Yesterday I was clever. I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. Absolutely beautiful, isn't it? And of course, how could I possibly finish this vlog without mentioning the light, which, as you know, I found and Rumi speaks of. In your light, I learn how to love. In your beauty, how to make poems. You dance inside my chest where no one sees you, but sometimes I do. And that sight becomes this art. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this vlog and that, not only got something out of it, but provoked thoughts. I'm not here to push my beliefs, my thoughts on you. Only to open up your own thinking. Get you thinking about the world and life. When I started The Real Magic of Java, I believed that I'd only release them every month or maybe every 2 months. But now I find myself adding to this subsection once or twice a week. But please subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications for when I add new parts to this subsection. In part, the reason why I'm doing it more often is that the concept has moved from filming rituals and events that took place in Java to me also describing my beliefs and philosophy. And that does come in response to people expressing an interest in it. But of course, you know, me actually seeing rituals and events really doesn't happen so often. What I would say to you is that there's no attempt at subterfuge on my behalf. And when I do experience rituals, I will include them for you to see. And as I say, there's no way I'm trying to mislead you. And if I believe there is subterfuge, if I uncover it, I will point it out to you. I'm trying to be as honest as I can be. Now, please make comments, please ask questions, and I'll try to be as honest and open with you as I can be. Of course, there will be some of you who disagree with me, particularly when I talk in terms of my own beliefs, my own feelings. And, you know, you're welcome to alternative feelings, and we can agree to disagree. Sometimes I find that people on YouTube can be unnecessarily attacking and aggressive, and at times I don't restrain myself enough, and I apologise, but it's not my intention to put anybody down, you know. I know what I talk about can be emotive, and it can be challenging to your beliefs. But, you know, I'd love to enter an open discussion, a heartfelt discussion. But unfortunately, I often come across things that are, especially when people quote the scriptures to me, I've just no idea where it takes us, you know. Because I'm speaking from the heart, you know. I mean, you know, sorry, if you want to quote the scriptures at me, do so, but it doesn't have much impact on me, you know. I personally have no desire to impose my feelings on you, and I suppose when people try to do it to me, it washes off, you know. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to share my feelings with you, and I'd love an open discussion on feelings. I really would love it, you know. And sorry if I don't always react as best I should. I try and cure this in myself, but I think this is part of the sort of narcissism of social media that I talk about so much in this subsection. So look, if you've enjoyed it, I really urge you to listen to other sections on this channel, particularly the 4 audio books that I've uploaded onto this channel. Yes, they are in a novel format. They are novels, but they go into much greater depth than my thoughts and feelings. Now, what I would say to you is these are sequential. So my thoughts and feelings develop as we go through each chapter and each book. So it does begin with 1.1, the Chinese cemetery. But, you know, hey, it's up to you. Feel free to dip in as you wish, as you want. And, you know, really heartfelt thanks for listening to this. And I really want to say a great big thank you, and God bless you.